to start with, I'll just go down the list. How's Audie doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off by saying I don't have a ton of information on all these guys because we just had one training so far this week with recovery coming back from New York. So, I don't have a lot of clear answers on a lot of these questions with regards to whether or not they're gonna factor in the game. So I'll just start things right off the bat with that. I'll know more probably tomorrow and Friday on whether or not these guys will be available. Obviously, Vitas came out, obviously, the game with a shoulder, sublux shoulder, and Maddox came out with a bit of a knee contusion. Obviously, Audie's working himself back in, but we don't have anything clear, concrete to speak of about him yet. We'll know more as the week goes on. Same thing with Reggie in evaluating his fitness.
And then I guess, so all of those guys are kind of just, we don't know yet, of the ones you mentioned. And then Gleason and Marco Farfan, I noticed, had been coming back, but... Marco's injury got missed. He injured it with T2 in the game and re-injured his ankle. So, unfortunately, he's going to be out again for a couple more weeks. And Jake?
Yeah, Jake. I think I talked about Jake last week. He was training. He was healthy.
In terms of that, then in terms of that, Jake and Jeff, you had said last week that Jake, you didn't want to push it with 90 minutes. As he gets healthier, I mean, how is this decision for you? Obviously, with how well Jeff Adenell has been playing, whether to put Jake back in or let Jeff keep going.
Same as any other position. Obviously goalkeeper, I've said before, gets talked about a lot. Maybe it's the quarterback controversy in football. I don't know why it is, but it's the goalkeeper position is the same as any other position. We make decisions every week on whether or not guys play in every position in the 11 positions and then the bench. So it's really no different. We'll make the same decision on that as we do all the other positions based on what we know, current form, past evidence, and what we see in training, what we've seen in the past games.
Talking about a different player, Diego Valeri started to get a little bit more interest in terms of national media kind of talking about the MVP race. How did you evaluate where he stands in this league and this year and what he's doing, and how much you think he should be factoring into the MVP consideration?
Well, I don't evaluate that because I evaluate just the next game and trying to win games. I'm not really concerned about whether or not he's winning the MVP race, but I think he's worthy of being in that conversation, certainly based on the obvious reasons, his form, his production, and he's having a career year.
What he's been able to do with Audie being out, obviously Audie's been out 5 games, and Valeri's been able to score in all of those games. Does that speak to maybe just his adaptability as a player in terms of being able to provide what the team needs in the moments, what the team need when the team needs it?
I think he always plays well. He always scores goals. I don't think really anything's changed. Obviously he scored goals in 7 games because he's in form and confident, and I think it is ironic that has come when Audie's been gone. You have to start to look at, is it because of Darren's movement that opens up space, or is it just because Valeri is a guy that, scores goals anyways? So he's just happened to. So is it a coincidence? Is there a reason? I haven't really thought that hard about it, other than, we're playing well. We've done well in this last, 8 games, and we're in good form, and hopefully we can continue to be in that form. Valeri's obviously always been a key guy for us. There's nothing different with that. He's always been a key guy over the 5 years and always produced goals. But you'd have to say he's hotter than ever right now in terms of the goals, at least. And that's great for him. It's great for our team.
Caleb, Jeff Attenell, we saw him sort of do something with his shoulder when he made those great saves. Just checking, is he fine in that regard?
Yeah, again, I don't have any of those answers today. We had a light training today, and most of the guys that were questionable didn't train today. So, like I said from the beginning, I just don't have those answers. I'm sorry.
So he is questionable, quote unquote? Or
I don't know. What's that mean?
Okay.
I think all the guys are questionable if they're not in training, or if they've been injured, and so what? Yeah, I mean, I guess what if that means that they might not play? Then again, I don't know. I said that right from the beginning. I don't have answers.
no, I was just clarifying if Jeff was one of those guys in that group, because he obviously finished the game, so.
Right.
um,
He obviously has a sore shoulder, so that's all I know.
Okay.
I don't know if he was limited in training. Obviously, it was a light training today, and so I mean, if you want to call it questionable, then yeah, he could be questionable.
Just talk about what he's brought to the team during this stretch. I mean, obviously he's made some great saves, but you had talked when you signed him that you signed him because you thought he could be a starter. But just talk about not just the plays he's made, but the way he's sort of, I guess, ingrained himself as a starter the last few weeks.
Yeah, we said it a bunch. I've said it a bunch of times in here and prior to the year that we thought he was one of the best backups in the league, and really when you're looking at it, he was behind, backing up, arguably the best goalkeeper in the history of the league, so he probably wouldn't have been a backup unless he was there, and that's why we signed him, that's why we liked him, and I think he's done what we thought he'd do. We knew he was going to push, and when he played, we knew he was going to be good, and he's shown that. I mean, we bring in guys not just to be backups here. We bring in guys to push the starters, and ideally you want 22 starting players, and then it shakes out based on how guys play and perform, and there are going to be opportunities that come about in an MLS season with injuries, and he's certainly done extremely well. So we're glad we made that signing.
And just talk about RSL and kind of the form they're in and what you see as the main challenges this week.
Yeah, always had quality. Like I said, going into the last time we played them, obviously they showed that quality in the game that last game we played versus them. Of course, the red cards factored in, but they've always had quality. They're not a ton different than the team that last year looked very good, and they've even added a few pieces. So they're a good team. They've always had quality. I'd say they're a lot better than their standing. Their last 2 home games, they scored 8 goals, 4 in each game at home. They know it's do or die. I mean, based on kind of looking at scenarios, they have to pretty much win 4 or 5 and maybe even more to have a chance. So this is an important game for them, because obviously if they don't get the result, it might mean they're out. It's going to be tight because they don't have the games in hands that some of the other teams have, which makes it more difficult. You start to kind of add things up and do the math. I know they're not doing that right now because they got to sell everything on the next game, and there's no chance if they don't win the next game type of thing. So that's all they'll be focused on. But they're going to have a really good run here in the last 5 to realistically have a chance, and it starts with our game, and they'll be aggressive. They're a very good attacking team. They've shown that in the last 2 home games. Like I said, scoring 8 goals, and I think they have as much as anybody in the league, to be honest with you. And a bit surprised that, honestly, they're in this position, because I think they're a good team, and they were injured when Mike first got the job, and I think that's the only reason really that they're behind it a little bit, because clearly he's had an impact, and they're playing well, and their attacking group is scoring, which you knew they would, but they had quite a few injuries for a period of games, and talked about that with Mike as well, and I think that's been the real difference. They dropped some points early on when he took over. It's going to be a tough game, and obviously we have some questions, and but it's a big game for them. It's a big game for us because we want to be in the 1 or 2 seed. So we're going to keep fighting for that, and that's been our mindset. So we're not going to change anything. We're not going to change a thing. We're not changing training. We're in a very good rhythm, and we've pretty much kept that rhythm through this 8-game stretch. You know, we've been keeping things simple and making sure guys are fresh and not changing too much in terms of the way we're playing, home or away, respecting every opponent, but pretty much focusing on ourselves and playing aggressive. And that's been a really good formula for us in doing so well in these recent games.
Coach, do you like this time of year where, you know, the cream is kind of rising to the top and you know where you're going, the playoff hunt is on, that type of thing, when you start to battle for position?
Yeah, I mean, I like every time of the year, but I like knowing where you're at, and I like knowing what it's going to lead to, and you know, there's still a lot of work to be done. We're nowhere near, you know, where we need to be, and I think that's the key. We have to stay hungry. We have to keep fighting. We have a lot of motivation to keep pushing for the top. We have 5 games left, so us being in the top position right now means absolutely nothing. And our guys aren't even looking at that. They're not thinking about that. They might not even be aware of it, to be honest with you, because all we're looking at is trying to win each and every game, and we know what we need to do. And this group is very businesslike. You know, they were clearly happy after the win, but they fouled it away today. They looked like nothing happened, and that's the mode that you want your team in. That's the mentality you want in your group. And every game, I think I said it 4 games ago, was a cup final. That's the way we're approaching it. You know, so we're not going to relax. We're going to keep pushing, and you know, we know some teams have games in hand on us. Vancouver might jump us tonight. We don't care. We're going to keep fighting every game to try to be in that 1-2 seed.
And a similar question about Diego Valeri, but just your thoughts on the goal-scoring tear that he's on right now, and if you've experienced or seen stuff like this, just being in the right place at the right time, mixed with, you know, just his ability to score.
Yeah, he's 5th year. He's always been good, you know, and he's always scored goals. And you know, I think just scoring 7 in a row, I think, is the big talk, and I think that's what's been unique. And I think the amount of goals that he's scored this year, and the energy that he continues to show after 5 years, and you know, that's I think the reason that there's all these conversations. But every year there's a conversation about Diego Valeri, because he's a top player. He's a very good player, and does a lot for our team. Has done a lot for our team, and so you know, to be honest with you, I think the talk is surprising, because the reality is he's doing what he always does. He's a top player.
In this recent stretch of games, you guys have played well throughout the season, but the closing out games and the grinding out results has been a big shift in your ability to do that consistently. Have you seen a shift maybe in the mentality, or what has led to you guys being able to do this now at the right time, at the best, most important time of the season?
No shift in mentality. I think we're just making more plays, you know, and some of that has to do with personnel. That's a big part of it. We weren't closing out games. I said it a lot. We were not making those 1 or 2 plays that you always have to make, and it's typically set pieces. It's crosses, and it comes down to players and moments in the boxes always. I think it also helps a little bit, you know, when you're keeping the ball better. But you know, last 8 games, a big part of why we're closing out games is we're defending in moments, and the individuals are making plays, and we're keeping the ball better. And then, of course, when you start to have that pattern of closing out games, then it doesn't hurt that there's that confidence that you're going to do it collectively. But it still will always come down to the players in those moments, making sure that, you know, and the opponent, you know, some of that. So there are games you get through, and maybe you're lucky, you know, maybe that. If that cross is a little bit lower, or if that run's a little bit better, or if the player on the end of that for the opponent is a bit more clinical, you know, those are things that people forget about. You know, so sometimes you dodge bullets, and sometimes you take a bullet that you shouldn't. But you know, over the long haul, the game's fair. The game is fair, and I always believe that, and that's why we don't really get too high or low because we know it'll even out. We're on the right end recently of some fortune as well, so that's good.
And then just, I know you've talked about him a good amount this year, but obviously if Vitas and Ridgewell are out, or even if one of them's out, Roy Miller is obviously going to play another role in the game. How important has it been to continue to have a guy that continues to be versatile on the back line and provide that level of...
Yeah, he's been big. Obviously we, again, talked about it. We needed depth. It's important. We won it with depth. We won it because we had a deep team. And, we had guys that would come in the game, whether it was injuries or whether we wanted to bring guys in the game, and they would play well. I always use the example. We're dead in the water playing KC in the playoffs. We're down. It's game's over. They ride out that game 9 out of 10 times, and we sub in Esprit and Maxi Urruti. And if it wasn't for those two guys coming into the game and creating that goal, then we don't win MLS Cup. And and obviously throughout the year we had guys that were injured, and we grinded points because when we had to rotate or when we needed to rotate, we stayed in the race. This year is like that, and last year that's where we fell short. I said that. This year we've had depth and we've had to rotate, and because of that we're in the position that we're in. And so you'd say Lawrence and Roy and Atanella, all these guys, those are just as important, those signings, as any of the other signings.